What's up, everybody? JVille Sports here with my sports picks video, New York basketball edition. Yes, that's right. Some of you guys might be like, what, New York basketball? So one of the things I want to do this year is I want to do more videos, more content. The village is constantly growing each and every day. I have you guys to thank for that. And so one of the ways I want to give back is I want to do more videos, more content. So I have partnered up with Elite Sports New York. If you're not familiar with them and you're a New York sports fan, you should be. Check them out, elitesportsny.com, for all your New York, New Jersey sports needs. They cover all teams and all sports. So what I'm going to be doing is a new thing starting today. Each and every Thursday, I'm going to cover New York weekend basketball. So that's the NBA, college basketball. So in the NBA, we have the Knicks, we have the Nets. In college basketball, we have Rutgers, Seton Hall, St. John's, Syracuse, Iona. I'm going to be giving an opinion on these games from a betting perspective. And that's what I'm going to do every single Thursday. And then throughout the week, I'm also going to do other videos on other teams. But even though I'm focusing on New York teams, in the comment section, feel free to ask me about any game involving any team in the NBA or college basketball. I'll definitely take a look and respond. So that's what I'm going to be doing every single Thursday. So stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe so you know when new videos pop up. And to kick things off, the basketball gods have given me something huge to talk about. What a trade that went down yesterday in the NBA. James Harden, one of the best players in the NBA, is making his move to the Brooklyn Nets. It's something we saw coming. It's not a huge shocker. More shocking news came kind of in the offseason with Daryl Morey, with the Rockets moving on, Mike D'Antoni moving on. News came out with Harden and Westbrook not happy in Houston. So we kind of saw this coming. It was only a matter of time before Harden was dealt. It looked like he was either going to go to Philly or Brooklyn. Boston kind of dabbled in there a little bit. I'm sure a couple other teams as well. Is not an easy team. He's not like some other stars, but he's not like other superstars that you can get and plug him into your team, into your system. James Harden's kind of his own system. You kind of have to change everything around if you bring him into your team. So we're going to see, but we know what Brooklyn has. Steve Nash is the head coach, but Mike D'Antoni is there. Are we going to see a lot of what we saw in Houston? But the difference being James Harden now has one of the best teammates he's ever had in Kevin Durant. We know they were together for a little bit in OKC. It's crazy that Harden was able to play with Russell Westbrook one more time in Houston for a year. Now he has to play with Kevin Durant. All three of them were together in Oklahoma City before they blew that team up. So definitely crazy news in the NBA. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of the trade. Is Brooklyn going to be a contender? It all kind of depends on Kyrie Irving. I mean, this is one of the best point guards in the league, but he just doesn't seem 100% committed right now. So we'll see what happens with that. In my opinion, obviously, Brooklyn is one of the best teams in the East. They'll have to contend with Milwaukee and Miami and Boston, the usual suspects. So it's going to be a good Eastern Conference playoff. We'll see who ends up coming out of it. There's going to be some other big moves as we head towards the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens. But that is some crazy news there involving the Brooklyn Nets. So let's go ahead and talk about some games. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the NBA, and then I'm going to move to college basketball. I'll kind of go day by day. I'll start with Friday, then go to Saturday, and then Sunday. Then move on to college basketball and do the same thing. So Friday, we have one game involving the New York Knicks, and they are on the road taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So after opening up the season with a 5-3 record, the Knicks have now lost 4 in a row to drop to 5-7. Their offense has just really been inconsistent this year. Alec Burks, he got off to a hot start. He only played 3 games to start the year, but he was averaging over 20 points a game. So they are really missing him right now. They need to get him back. Also, Reggie Bullock, he is going to be a game time decision. If he is out, Austin Rivers is likely going to get another start. A backcourt with Austin Rivers and Elfrid Payton is definitely not what you want if you are a New York Knicks fan. It doesn't sound too enticing, but you have Julius Randle down below. He's just been an absolute monster this year, and he really has to be. In order for the Knicks to beat anybody good, Randle has to have monster games. He's going to need some help from other players. RJ Barrett, he needs to get more consistent. He's averaging over 15 points a game, but he's not very efficient at all. So he needs to kind of continue to grow and evolve. Kind of hard to do with what's around him. but they got a good head coach. I mean, this team's just going to go through some growing pains right now as they kind of build out their team to what they want it to be. Flipping to the other side in the Cleveland Cavaliers, they also got off to a better than expected start with a 4-2 record. Since then, they are 1-5, losers of 3 in a row. They have a little bit of an excuse. They have a ton of injuries. Namely their 2 stud guards, their backcourt, Garland and Sexton. Garland has missed 6 straight games. It doesn't look like he's going to be back until the end of January. Sexton, he has also missed 4 in a row, and he is questionable for tomorrow's game against the New York Knicks. Kevin Love is also out. Drummond, he is questionable as well. So there are just a lot of question marks. So it's kind of hard to handicap this game without knowing exactly who's going to be playing. The one thing that has been consistent with both of these teams recently is their offense. Both of these teams are struggling offensively. Like I mentioned, obviously with Cleveland, they're missing 2 of their best players. The Knicks are missing players as well. So both teams are just inconsistent offensively. One of the things I'm going to be looking at in this game is the total. I don't know what the total is going to be yet, but I'm definitely going to be looking at an underplay if it's not too low. So we're going to have to see what the total is posted at. But I'm definitely going to be looking at an underplay here. It looks like Cleveland is projected to be a 1.5 point favorite in this game. And for me, it's all going to depend on who is playing for Cleveland. I believe Garland's going to be out. If Sexton is also out along with Drummond, I'm definitely going to be looking at a Knicks play, especially if Reggie Bullock can give it a go. If he's out, like I said, this is all going to depend on who's going to be playing for each of these teams. But the spread should be right around the pick 'em, 1 or 2 points for either team. But like I said, depending on who's playing is going to determine kind of which direction I go, if any. But like I said, my main play is most likely going to be on the under if it's not posted too low. That is the Knicks and Cavs on Friday. Saturday, we have the Orlando Magic on the road taking on the Brooklyn Nets. This could be the first time we see James Harden make his Brooklyn Nets debut. If all goes well with his COVID testing, we can see him in action along with Kevin Durant. Still no Kyrie Irving, as he is out doing, I don't know what he's doing. He is just not in it 100% like I mentioned before. We'll see when he ends up coming back. It doesn't look like it's going to be this weekend. But the Orlando Magic, this is a back-to-back with travel for Orlando if the game on Friday happens. They were supposed to play the Boston Celtics on Wednesday, but Boston is dealing with COVID issues. That game was postponed. They play Boston again, or they're supposed to play Boston again tomorrow on Friday. So we'll see if that game takes place, because that game is going to give us some information that we can use for Saturday's game against the Brooklyn Nets for Orlando. Because if they do play on Friday, it's going to be back-to-back with travel as they take on the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn. Although since that game on Wednesday against Boston was postponed, they have had some extra time to rest and prepare and practice. So we'll see how much the back-to-back actually does affect them if it does happen. But let's start with Orlando. So they're a little bit banged up right now. They suffered a big loss already this year. Their starting point guard, Markelle Fultz, is out for the season. So now they're relying heavily on rookie point guard Cole Anthony and Michael Carter-Williams, who has missed 4 games himself, dealing with a sprained ankle. So we'll see if Michael Carter-Williams is able to come back on Friday if that game is played. Because if not, they are really thin at the guard position. In addition to that, Evan Fournier, he's been out as well with back spasms. So we'll see if he's another guy. So we're looking for 2 guys on Friday for Orlando. Michael Carter-Williams, is he able to come back? And also Evan Fournier, is he able to come back? So those are 2 guys for Orlando to look out for, because they will be key losses or additions. So for the Nets, as I mentioned, they're going to be without Kyrie Irving. And they traded, so we know Dinwiddie is out for the year. Karis LeVert, he was one of the guys that was involved in the trade, so he was their other ball handler. So they're really without a point guard right now. So if James Harden does play in this game, is he going to kind of take over that role? I think we're going to see a lot of isolation with James Harden and Kevin Durant. They'll probably take turns kind of doing what they do. So I think this offense, like, we're going to have to see this team play a few times. Obviously, when Kyrie comes back, it's going to look much different than it is now in this game. But I think they're going to struggle offensively a little bit until they can work out the kinks. We know, I mean, this is a team that's run by Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni. So we know they're going to be running, not a whole lot of focus on defense. But I still think this game, depending on where they post the total, I'm going to be looking at another underplay here. Again, Orlando's dealing with some injuries, and it could be a back-to-back with travel for them. We have Brooklyn. They're going to be bringing in James Harden. They also lost some other pieces, as I mentioned, Chris LeVert, Jared Allen. These guys are now gone, so it's going to kind of take some time for them to get their groove going. So I think we could see a lower scoring game in this one. Again, we're going to have to wait and see what the total is posted at. I'm projecting Brooklyn to be favored by 8 in this game, and it's kind of going to depend on who is going to be playing for Orlando. If Evan Fournier is back and Michael Carter-Williams is playing, I could be looking at Orlando plus the points in this one, especially if the line increases. If once James Harden is listed as playing, that line could move up. If we're getting Orlando double digits, +9, +10, I could be looking in that way. I think that's too many points for a team that's going to be breaking in a new offense, basically. Like I mentioned, James Harden is his own system. He is not like any other player, and it's going to take, and there's going to be an acclimation period there. So that's how I'll be looking at this game. I'll be looking at the injury report, definitely, but I'm most likely going to be looking at an underplay in that one. So let's go ahead and move on to Sunday, and we have the Knicks taking on the Celtics. So as I mentioned before, the Celtics are a team right now dealing with COVID. Their best player, Jason Tatum, tested positive last Friday, so he is going to be out for this game. There's a bunch of other players due to contact tracing that is questionable for tomorrow's game between the Celtics and Orlando. So that is going to give us a lot of information on who is going to be available for the Celtics on Sunday, if they can get a bunch of these guys back. So we'll see. So I'm projecting Boston to be favored by 9 points in this one. But again, we need to see who is going to be suiting up for the Celtics, because if they're going to be missing some key players, I'm looking at Jaylen Brown. We know they're going to be without Tatum. They're still without Kemba. So we're going to be looking at Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Jeff Teague. Are all these other guys going to be playing? That's going to be the main factor in this game. Again, similarly to Orlando, I might be looking at the Knicks here. If we can get the Knicks at double digits, +10, especially if the Knicks end up losing that game to Cleveland, they're going to be on a long losing streak. They're going to be looking to get out of that. Knicks plus the points could be the way I might be looking if it's double digits. Again, how much have the Celtics been practicing? They've had a lot of guys in and out quarantining, so the Celtics could be out of sorts in this one. Could be looking at the Knicks maybe first quarter, first half, especially if Reggie Bullock is back for the Knicks. That'll be a big boost for that lineup. But this is another game I most likely will be looking at an underplay in this one. First half under, full game under, and then depending on who's playing for Boston, and if Boston ends up playing on Friday, again, that's going to give us a lot of information. So Friday's game between Orlando and Boston is huge, because that's going to help us when Orlando plays Brooklyn. And that's also going to help us with some information when the Knicks play the Celtics. So Friday's game is definitely one to take a look at, and that's going to help us determine what plays we make for the weekend. So those are the 3 games we have Friday through Sunday with the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks. Pretty much all 3 games I'm going to be looking at underplays if the totals aren't too low. And then as far as sides go, I might be looking at Orlando plus the points if they are double digits, and the Knicks plus the points. We're going to be looking at those 2 spreads to see if they are inflated. But that is going to wrap up the NBA weekend. So let's go ahead and I have a couple games to touch on for college basketball. Starting with Friday, we have an interesting game in the Big Ten between Wisconsin. They are on the road against Rutgers. So this is going to be a really good game. These are 2 good teams. Wisconsin's the top 10 team, or at least they were. We'll see what happens when the new rankings come out. Rutgers was a top 15 team. They're no longer ranked. So these are 2 really good teams, both of which are going to be looking to bounce back. So Wisconsin, like I mentioned, one of the best teams in the nation. They have a solid starting 5. They have a bunch of guys, and any of them, any given night, could be the guy. But they are coming off an embarrassing loss on the road against Michigan. From the very beginning, they just did not have it. Low energy. Michigan was on fire, and Michigan ends up blowing them out by 23. It's only their 3rd loss of the year. And on the flip side, you have, like I mentioned, Rutgers, formerly ranked, I believe, as high as 11. They're coming off 3 straight losses. And this is one of the best Rutgers teams that they have had in quite some time. Usually I try to look for motivational edges, and when I look at college basketball, there's a lot of motivational edges that you can find. This one, there isn't any. Wisconsin, like I mentioned, they're coming off an embarrassing loss. Rutgers are coming off 3 straight losses. Both of these teams are looking to bounce back here. Both of these teams, I believe, are going to be given max effort. The good thing about Rutgers is their last game against Penn State ended up getting postponed or canceled. So Rutgers has had some extra time to rest up, get healthy, practice, kind of figure out what's been going on, why they have lost their last 3 games. 2 of those games were against 2 of the best teams in the Big Ten, Iowa and Michigan State. The last game, though, I was surprised that they lost at home. Ohio State is a really good team as well, but I thought Rutgers, coming off those 2 losses, would find a way to win that game at home. They ended up losing to Ohio State for their 3rd straight loss. So they kind of need to figure some things out. Wisconsin, like I said, for whatever reason, they just didn't have it the other day against Michigan. I'm going to be looking at them to come into this game with a lot of energy. I'm going to be looking at a Wisconsin first half play here. I don't know what the line is yet for this game. I'm projecting it to be around 4 points for Wisconsin. So the first half line might be around -2. Wisconsin came into that game against Michigan, like I said, with just low energy, and I expect them to have the complete reverse in this one. I expect them to come out guns blazing. Rutgers, same thing. I think Rutgers is going to come out fighting too as well. But I think when it's all said and done, I think either team can. I think it's going to be a really, really good game, one that either team can win. But I think Wisconsin, for the first half, I think they're going to come out stronger. Rutgers, I just need to see from them. They have not played well in quite some time. Wisconsin, they had that one hiccup against Michigan, but before that, Wisconsin right now is just in better form. So I'm going to go with the better team and better form, but I'm going to take Wisconsin in the first half because I do think Rutgers is tough at home and they have a chance to win this game. But I'm going to look at Wisconsin to come out in the first half. I don't have an official play in this one. I'm waiting to see what the line is going to be. But that's the way I'm looking right now, is Wisconsin first half. So that game is going to take place tomorrow on Friday, January the 15th. And then Saturday the 16th, I want to look at one game as well. Syracuse at Pittsburgh. So this spread, I'm projecting it to be anywhere from -2 for Syracuse to -2 for Pittsburgh. It's going to be somewhere around pick'em. Once the line gets posted, money's going to come in, the spread's going to move. But I don't expect it to get higher than 2 points for either team. And I'm going to be going with Syracuse here for a few reasons. So these 2 teams actually just played on the 6th, so a little over a week ago, and Pittsburgh won 63-60. So I like that it's a quick turnaround for Syracuse to get some quick revenge on Pittsburgh. When you lose to a team and then don't play them for a month, 5-6 weeks, it kind of loses that luster. But when you lose to a team and you get to play them again 1 week later, I think that's much more of a factor. And I like that revenge angle here for Syracuse. On top of that, this is actually the last time Pittsburgh played a game, was on the 6th. They've had a couple games postponed since then. They haven't been able to get back on the court since that win against Syracuse back on the 6th. Syracuse, in the meantime, has played twice. They played Georgetown. They're coming off a tough road loss to North Carolina. It was a really close game. But I think Pittsburgh could be a little bit out of rhythm in this game. And I'm going to be looking at Syracuse possibly first half, but definitely full game. So Syracuse, we all know they play that tough zone. You need to be able to knock down some threes in order to beat this team, to crack that zone. Pittsburgh shoots about 30% from 3. So that's in the bottom third of all of basketball. So they are not very good at all at shooting the 3. One of the reasons why Pittsburgh won that first game is that was the first time Syracuse played in about 2.5 weeks. They had a long layoff due to COVID issues. And that was their first game back, was against Pittsburgh, and they only lost by 3. So I think Syracuse in that game wasn't in good form. And I think in this game, they're going to be much, much better. And I like them to come away with the win. We have the revenge factor. Syracuse, they should be much better than they were in the first game. And Pittsburgh, they haven't been able to play in over a week. So for me, all signs point to Syracuse in this one. And for every video that I do on Thursday covering these New York teams, for the weekend, I'm going to have one best bet of the video, and today's best bet is going to be for that Saturday game. Syracuse, whatever the spread's going to be, whether it's Syracuse +2, Syracuse -2, -1, pick 'em, whatever the spread is for Syracuse. That is going to be my play for Saturday. That is going to be the best bet of the video. Syracuse against Pittsburgh on Saturday. That's going to wrap it up for me. So we covered 5 games, 3 in the NBA, 2 in college. So just a quick recap. I'm going to be looking at a bunch of unders in the NBA between the Knicks and Cavs. Ugly game. I'm going to be looking at who is going to be playing for Cleveland tomorrow. Is Garland and Sexton and Drummond and Kevin Love, are they all going to be out? If so, I might be looking at the Knicks in that game, but I'm also looking at an underplay as well. For Saturday, Brooklyn Nets and Orlando Magic, is James Harden going to make his debut? That's another game I'm probably going to be looking at the under. For Orlando, I'm going to be looking at injuries. Is Evan Fournier going to be coming back? Is Michael Carter-Williams going to be coming back? Is that line, once James Harden is that line going to increase? Right now I have it projected at 8. Once it's confirmed that James Harden is going to be playing, is that going to increase? Is it going to decrease, stay the same? So watch that line move. If it increases, if it looks like it's too inflated towards Brooklyn, I might be looking at an Orlando ticket in that one. But that's another game I'm going to be looking at in underplay, just because I think it's going to take some time for Brooklyn to get that offense in order. Sunday, we have the Knicks and Celtics. Again, pay attention to that Friday game between Orlando and Boston. That's going to tell us a lot of information. That's going to tell us a lot that we can use for these weekend games. But if the Celtics are missing a bunch of guys due to COVID issues, I'm going to be looking at a Knicks ticket there. If it gets inflated to double digits, +10. But that's another game I'm going to be looking at the under in that one as well. Those are the 3 games in the NBA for the weekend. In college, we'll be looking at a game on Friday between Wisconsin and Rutgers. I don't have an official play on this yet. I'm going to be looking to see what the line is going to be. Again, I'm expecting Wisconsin to be favored around 4 or 5 points. But I think Wisconsin is just going to come out with a lot of energy in this one, the complete opposite of what they had the other day against Michigan. I'm going to be looking at most likely a Wisconsin first half ticket. But I do think Rutgers is desperate right now. They've lost 3 in a row. You always got to be careful with ranked teams on the road. Rutgers is very, very capable of beating anybody in the Big Ten, Wisconsin included. If you remember, not that long ago, Iowa might be the best team in the Big Ten. Iowa barely came away with the victory. They almost lost that game, but they beat Rutgers on the road only by 2. That was a game that Rutgers easily could have won. And same thing here, Rutgers, a desperate Rutgers team, can come away with the victory here against Wisconsin. So if I do make a play on Wisconsin, it'll most likely be in the first half, but that's going to be a good game, one that I definitely want to tune in and watch, whether I have a play on it or not. But I will have a play on this one Saturday, Syracuse at Pittsburgh. I'm going to be looking at Syracuse to come away with some revenge here against a Pittsburgh team that they lost to about a week and a half ago. I think Syracuse is in much better form for this one. They'll be better prepared. And like I said, Pittsburgh is not a good 3-point shooting team. They're going to have to knock down some threes. They are at home. Pittsburgh will be at home, so that should help them a little bit. But we all know these days being at home isn't really a huge deal. So I'm going to be looking at Syracuse to cover the spread, whatever it may be. That is going to be the best bet of the video. Syracuse projecting -1 against Pittsburgh. And that is going to wrap it up from me. So I'm going to do this every single Thursday. Like I said, covering all New York teams. I'm going to have some other videos throughout the week covering other teams, other sports. The NHL kicked off yesterday. I'm very excited for that. We are 1-0 to start the NHL season thanks to the Tampa Bay Lightning. But right around the corner, we'll have the MLB. We have the NFL playoffs going on right now. So a lot of sports right now. We are covering all of them. Check out my different social media pages down below. I'm pretty much everywhere you can find me. Also, don't forget to check out EliteSportsNewYork.com. That's EliteSportsNY.com for all your New York, New Jersey sports needs. They have it all there. They're covering all teams and all sports. Also, you can find me at JVilleSportsPicks.com. That's going to wrap it up for me. Good luck this weekend. I'll have an NFL video coming out here shortly. Other than that, that's going to wrap it up from me. Enjoy the games. Good luck, and I'll see you guys soon.